And there are many false claimants of being Al-Mahdi today. So in my book, Navigating the End of Time, which is this book, I covered many of the end of time cults. And one of those cults that I did mention was the cult of Abdullah Hashem. And at the time when I had mentioned the cult of Abdullah Hashem, he was not as prominent as he is today. And of course, that is the case with some of the other cult leaders that I mention in this book. With Abdullah Hashem, I mentioned his history and the formative years of his cult. At that point, he had not become prominent within the UK. So last year, he did a recording, a podcast with a cult member where he made reference to myself, because some of those who had been influenced by his cult brought his teachings to my attention because of me having composed some historical data, compiled some historical data relating to Abdullah Hashem in my book, Navigating the End of Time. So at that time, he did a recording, and of course, the recording was not really full of any content in terms of substance. He just made a claim saying that I claim that he should come to Birmingham and listen to me in a Birmingham masjid, which is not the claim. I did not say that he should come and listen to me in a Birmingham masjid. The challenge was very open, that if he is claiming to be Al-Mahdi, and not only Al-Mahdi, he is claiming to mix between the concept of prophethood and Mahdiism. He conflates between the two concepts. So I had challenged him because he is a false claimant. Now he goes by the kunya, the agnomen of al-Sadiq. But I claim that he is not Sadiq, he is Kavib. And he is a liar, and I claim this openly, that he is a liar. He refers to me as an evil scholar. He refers to all the Sunni scholars as being evil because they expose his cult. Now, I would want to give many of you some background information with regard to the cult of Abdullah Hashem from my book, Navigating the End of Time, and I would advise cult members to acquire this book and read with regard to Abdullah Hashem and his past. Currently, as we speak, he has purchased a £2 million building in the area of Crewe, near London, or within the London region. And the background of Abdullah Hashem, which I write, the cult of Abdullah Hashem further exemplifies eschatological cults that lead their members down the rabbit hole of misguidance until it is too late and they can never leave. It may start with genuine concerns regarding the world, and then with the signs of the end of time, incurring citations of authentic Hadith, but eventually it leads to misinterpretation and delusions that coerce the mind of the acolyte, unable to see beyond the indoctrination of the cult leader. Now, many of you who follow the cult mind control, I write about it in this book. You will know of the BITE model. The BITE model mentions controlling behavior, information, thinking, and environment. These are the main factors that influence the mind of cult members. If you control their behavior, if you control the information that they receive, the thoughts, as well as environment. So the BITE model covers what Abdullah Hashem is doing to his cult members within the building that he has purchased here, intending to go from Crewe in England to Nevada in the future. Now, of course, in Indiana he had a beginning, but what I mentioned, and remember this book was written many years ago, So it is prior to Abdullah Hashem making his current claims. And I write, Abdullah Hashem, an American filmmaker of mixed Egyptian and European ancestry, studied filmmaking and took a deep interest in claimants of prophethood and advocated conspiracy theories regarding the establishment. So prior to this, he infiltrated cults, Hollywood filmmakers and actors. Some of his early investigative journalism was to investigate the cult of Raïl. The cult is known as the Raelians. Raïl, also known as Claude Maurice Marcel Varilhan, meaning he's French, founded his own religion, the Raelian movement. This movement was quite famous in the newspapers when they claimed to have cloned a baby. Raïl centered his cult around UFOs and belief in intelligent alien beings. Born in 1946 in France, Raïl was a journalist and taxi driver for many years, until, as he claims, he had an encounter with an extraterrestrial being in December 1973, whom he called Yahweh. Since then, Raïl has preached a doctrine centered around his experience with this purported alien being. So, according to the book which tells the truth, that was the title of Raïl's book, Varhillan had an alien visitation on 13th December 1973 in a secluded area within a French volcanic crater. An extraterrestrial being came out of a craft that had descended gently from the sky and told him in French that he had come for the sole purpose of meeting him. Raïl said that he was given a message by this alien. Now, some of you may think, what is this nonsense? But remember, there are people who believe in this. And told that it was his mission to pass it on to the people of earth. The gist of Raïl's philosophy matches much of that of Osho's, meaning Osho mentioned earlier in the book. And the clothes they chose to wear are similar too. Abdullah Hashem, so this claimant now, the Mahdi has come claimant. Abdullah Hashem followed this cult around in America, gaining the trust of some of its members, only later to expose them as a brainwashing cult. So Abdullah Hashem himself was following this cult and then exposes this cult in order to claim that this cult were brainwashing their members. And he makes a documentary. So what I write them as a brainwashing cult in a documentary which was also featured on Fox News. So on Fox News, this documentary was featured. This short documentary also featured an African American known as so-called Prophet Yahweh. This was an African false prophet that he followed around, who claimed to summon alien UFOs. The footage of which, much of this footage may be missing from the internet, but this man, this African American, he has died now. He would wear white pajamas and he would claim that whenever he summons the UFOs, they would appear. And this Abdullah Hashem would make video documentaries regarding these cults. This so-called Prophet Yahweh, na'udhu billah, so-called, he should not be confused with Yahweh bin Yahweh. There was another African American cult in the United States of America that was led by a man referring to himself as Yahweh bin Yahweh. They would wear Muslim garb. If you look at them, they would wear Muslim garb. Do not confuse the two. So, who claimed to be able to summon UFOs for people, and that UFOs had contacted all the biblical prophets. Abdullah Hashem claimed to have traveled the entire USA to gain information on the Dajjal system from insiders of the Raelian cult. So Abdullah Hashem claimed to have gleaned information regarding the Dajjalic system, as he would say. Now Abdullah Hashem and his friend Joseph McGowan. Now this Joseph McGowan is now a follower of Abdullah Hashem. Prior to that, he was an associate. Prior to that, he was involved with filmmaking with Abdullah Hashem. Joseph McGowan appeared together on Fox News and other media outlets between 2005 and 2006. And this footage may be still available online, saying they saw people recruited through sex and that acts of paedophilia took place at Raelian's seminar in 2005. These were false claims, by the way, regarding the Raelian cult. However, on 15th September 2011, a Californian federal court judgment against Hashem ordered him to return all film footage taken at the seminar to the Raelian movement. So he lied with regard to the Raelian movement. The courts ordered him to return back the footage. There was no abuse of children as he claimed. So even as a cult buster, he was making false claims regarding the Raelian movement or the Raelian cult. Hashem between 2007. So this Abdullah Hashem, you see what films he made between 2000 and 2008, also made a series on YouTube entitled The Antichrist Dajjal Will Be a Reptilian Shapeshifter. A series consisting of 10-minute long videos with information regarding the following. So this is a lot to take in. The documentary series has information regarding what? Regarding ancient Egypt, the occult, Satanism, occultism, magic, conspiracy theories, Hollywood and movie reference, and of course citations from religious texts, including the Quran and Hadith. The idea that the Dajjal will be a reptilian shapeshifter is taken from David Icke, who took it from South African shamans and sages and the like, such as Vasamazulu Credo Mutwa. So Credo Mutwa is a well-known Zulu teacher who made those claims. David Icke took that teaching from him, and Abdullah Hashem then applies it to Dajjal being a reptilian shapeshifter. So the idea of reptilian shapeshifters is likened to our Islamic belief in jinn, a false analogy. As now you may think, what is important regarding this? Remember, there are many Muslims who fall into the trap of believing in the tripe of David Icke or the trash of Abdullah Hashem and these type of cult leaders. So it's a false analogy, as generally Muslims do not believe that certain people, such as the British royal family, are shape-shifting reptilians who drink blood to maintain human-like appearance. Yes, I can say that with a straight face. Muslims do not believe in that. Abdullah Hashem's work was also influenced by the likes of Sheikh Imran Hussein. And Imran Hussein, we know, is also off his rails. Jordan Maxwell and other well-known conspiracy theorists. So this was the formative years. These were the formative years, compilation of all these cult teachings or conspiracy theories and ascribing that to the Quran and Sunnah. What made this series especially addictive, and this is addictive for many young people, was the captivating background music and the frightening theme running through the entire series that proposed that the Dajjal was a reptilian being, and listen to this carefully, was a reptilian being who controlled the affairs of the world, and that the world rulers in their turn worshipped the jinn. After creating hundreds of episodes, the entire series was removed from YouTube, supposedly for copyright infringements, or as Hashem's followers claimed, for other ulterior motives. Of course, the reason was that he was utilizing copyrighted material. There was nothing, meaning the series was not endangering the United States of America or anything else. It was just a conspiracy series. So this was Hashem's formative years, gaining prominence from appearing on Fox News, and then from 2007 and 2008 he makes this series which is known as the Antichrist Dajjal will be a reptilian shapeshifter, perhaps episodes of this series are still found online. So after gaining the confidence of a substantial number of young followers through the internet, Abdullah Hashem took them down a narrower path expressing support for the Shia Twelver Creed. So that was the first step. So initially, he did not claim to be a Shia. And later he took the step to announcing that he was a follower of the Twelver Shia sect, following the Twelver Shia Creed. And this is what he mentions in his podcast with me. When he did a podcast regarding me, he said that me and him differ on primary issues. Firstly, that he believes that Sayyiduna Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anh usurped the caliphate or usurped authority from Sayyiduna Ali radiyallahu anh. So he begins from that inception point. But what is mentioned, he began with subtle points at first, but growing more fanatical with each video. The addiction of his subscribers lay in his intertwining conspiracy theory, entertaining footage from popular movies, emotive music, frightening concepts, and claims made with the Hadith narrations pertaining to end times, as well as the appearance of the Mahdi and Ad-Dajjal. These short conspiracy videos became a source of dopamine, and in the absence of genuine knowledge from authentic scholars regarding the end of time, were perceived as being true. That's absolutely essential for people to know. That intertwining conspiracy theory with clips from movies, with fantastical music, it becomes a source of dopamine in the absence of authentic knowledge. These videos inspired a number of infamous YouTube conspiracy videos. The series, The Arrivals, became so popular that it was even televised on the ARY digital channel in Pakistan. So the Arrivals were inspired by Abdullah Hashem. The team behind the Arrivals were also Shia, and like Hashem, used footage from movies imitative of Dan Brown, catchy theme tunes. Dan Brown, the author of numerous books relating to conspiracy theories also, like the Da Vinci Code. Catchy theme tunes and texts from religious sources. The series also centered around a supposed conspiracy in the film and music industry to brainwash people and prepare them for the arrival of the Dajjal. As some reviewers of this documentary commented, it appeared that the makers had studied music and movies more than they had studied the Quran. Eventually, the producers of the Arrivals documentary established an internet forum with the name thewakeupproject.com. This was thewakeupproject.com, on which members would discuss various signs of the end of time from the perspective of conspiracy researchers and pseudoscience, although largely discredited by the scholars of this field. This is similar to Al-Fitan forums. There is an Arabic forum known as Al-Fitan forums, and Al-Fitan forums, there are two. There was one that has been taken down, but there was a previous one, a current one, Al-Fitan, which discusses conspiracy theories, and they conflate conspiracy theories with Hadith and Quran. Abdullah Hashem continued his internet activities in the USA, making a shorter series entitled 13 Masonic Secrets. So this was in 2007. He made another series referred to as 13 Masonic Secrets. And this consisted of 13 10-minute segments featuring supposed secrets of the Freemasons. It focused on the standard claims of trans-dimensional beings, checkered flooring signifying parallel realms, What that means is, if you look at the flooring of the Masonic halls, they have black and white checkered floors. He claimed that this represents the parallel jinn world and the material world. The jinn and human realms, Baphomet worship. Baphomet, as you know, the devil with the head of a goat is known as Baphomet. And the worship of jinn in Masonic rituals. After this series, Abdullah Hashem created another by the name of the Arrived. So you had the Arrivals, and then he made another series called the Arrived, which developed a theme that the Mahdi had arrived in the form of a particular Ahmad al-Hassan from Iraq. So from being a generic Muslim, not claiming to be Sunni or Shia, he comes out as a Shia, 12er, then he leaves the Shia, he leaves the 12ers, and he joins the cult of a man known as Ahmad al-Hassan from Iraq. And this is around 2008. This is when Abdullah Hashem went through some bizarre transformations in terms of beliefs and even stranger theories, drawing some of his online following into similar type of belief. These included cursing the companions, Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhuma, alongside other vile things such as introducing reincarnation as a valid belief in Islam, and purporting that there was not one Mahdi but many, who shall all appear prior to the final Mahdi. So what do they say is, al-a'immatu wal-mahdiyin, or al-a'immati wal-mahdiyin, if you place it in the majrur state. So they mention the Imams and the Ahlul Bayt. But when they say, they mention the Mahdiyin. When they mention the Mahdiyin, they mean there is a succession of different Mahdis. So then what happens is Hashim then opened a website titled Hashim Studios and went on to upload various films on it. At this stage, he urged people to migrate to Egypt, where he himself had migrated and set up a center for the new recruits of the Mahdi claimant, Ahmad al-Hassan. So this Ahmad al-Hassan is a Mahdi claimant from Al-Basra. I have one of his works which he wrote on atheism. He claims to be a man of knowledge, but in reality it's a team. It's a team of people. It's not one person. There is an entire cult, like the cult of Harun Yahya. A number of young people contacted Hashim via email and were given the details of how to move to Egypt and join the new cult that he was forming. On arrival, they would recite a new testimony of faith. So they had a new kalimatu shahada, which included professing faith in the Mahdi claimant Ahmad al-Hassan, and not just the 12 Imams, but numerous other Mahdis who will appear before the final Mahdi. The new cult even had its own ritual prayer, different to both Sunni and Shia Muslims. So their prayer was different to both Sunnis and Shia. So he leaves 12 Shiaism, and then he follows the teachings of this Ahmad al-Hassan, who gives them a new prayer, a prayer that goes against both Sunnis and Shia. So then the group worked in private during their time in Cairo until the so-called Arab Spring of 2011, when Abdullah Hashem and cult members participated in the protests in Tahrir Square. Abdullah Hashem even spoke briefly to a BBC reporter calling for the fall of Hosni Mubarak and to replace him with a democratic government. So this is the so-called Mahdi. This is for the cult members to think. Your so-called Mahdi was calling for the fall of Hosni Mubarak to be replaced with a democratic government. Now he speaks against democratic governments. Then what happens, the BBC clip was subsequently posted by him and his followers on YouTube. Coincidentally, during this period, Syria was also in turmoil. Rebels were pushing out the Assad regime from northern Syria, and many Wahhabi Salafi terrorists entered those areas to begin making autonomous enclaves of what they dreamed would become a caliphate. These terrorists, as terrorist fighters, included Al-Qaeda offshoots like the Nusra Front, but also a breakaway group led by a man who went by the name of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Al-Baghdadi led a group that would later be known to the world as ISIS or Daesh. There are two similarities between Hashim's group and ISIS that should be noted here. So, two similarities. Firstly, like Hashim, Ahmad al-Hassan and al-Utaybi. Now, who is al-Utaybi? Al-Utaybi is Juhayman al-Utaybi, who violated the sanctity of Makkah al-Mukarramah in 1979. He was from a Wahhabi background. So what I mentioned, Ahmad al-Hassan and Abdullah Hashem from a Shia background. The group of al-Baghdadi would distort hadith narrations. So all of these groups, they distort hadith narrations on the end times to fit their group ideology. They would claim that al-Baghdadi was from the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So even ISIS claimed that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was from the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and hint at his potentially being the Mahdi. So ISIS members would hint that Baghdadi was potentially the Mahdi. When in 2014 al-Baghdadi and his group took hold of Mosul in Iraq, after routing the Iraqi army, al-Baghdadi climbed the pulpit of the historical Nuruddin Zangi Masjid, which by the way ISIS later destroyed, and declared himself the Caliph of the Muslims and demanded of them to pledge their allegiance bay'ah. In some public announcements, ISIS fighters claimed that the great slaughter al-Malhamatul Kubra mentioned in Hadith literature was imminent, with the US and her allies advancing on ISIS during that period, the fulfillment of the prophecy. This delusion might have stemmed from the need to restore confidence in the fighters and inspired the hope of defeating their enemies in the impending battles. This doomsday cult of ISIS even attempted to block the Euphrates River. By the way, I'll be discussing the Euphrates River at the end of this live stream, to reduce water levels and bring about the prophecy of a mountain of gold appearing from that river. This methodology is indicative of the Qadariya sect and their belief that man creates his own actions and destiny, and thus can be instrumental in bringing about the end of times as the signs foretold in the Quran and Sunnah. The correct Sunni creed, however, is that the signs will come about when Allah wills, and when they do come about, it will just confirm the validity of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and count as one of his miracles. So this book, of course, is an encyclopedia. There were some students of knowledge criticizing this book, but even now they have acknowledged that the book is actually an encyclopedia that covers everything in depth. All the qawaid of relating to Ashratu Sa'ah are found in this book, and even those critics have acknowledged this. The second similarity between the cult of Abdullah Hashem and ISIS is that, like the former cult members, they made a series of, and this is interesting, they made a series of videos on YouTube promoting Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi as the emerging caliph and potential Mahdi. Now, some of you may be too young to remember this, but many young people watched these videos on YouTube and ran away to Turkey, and with the help of Mr. Erdogan, entered Syria to destabilize Syria with the dream. They had a pipe dream to establish a Wahhabi caliphate. They had that pipe dream. And then, unfortunately, many of these young people were killed. Some of them left children behind who are now in orphanages in that region. It was a disaster. So they made these documentaries claiming that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is the caliph. And as well as claiming that the black banners foretold to emerge from Khurasan were in fact the banners of ISIS. Such choreographed events ignore the picture formulated by all the relevant verses of Quran and Hadith, and many young people became influenced through these propaganda videos and subsequently brainwashed and recruited into ISIS, like these so-called people who love Jawlani. And we will be discussing Jawlani shortly when we discuss the tour of Donald Trump. There was many people who were enamored by Jawlani from December the 8th last year in 2024. And some of them may still be enamored. Some of them were referring to the revolution as the Blessed Revolution, imitating the glorious revolution of William of Orange, who established in 1694 the Bank of England. They referred to his revolution as the glorious revolution. So we will be covering Jawlani shortly after we cover this segment on Abdullah Hashem, the false Mahdi that has appeared. One such series that modeled itself on the style of the arrival was the Light Reloaded. So you had the arrivals, and like you had the arrivals, you had another series which was referred to as the Light Reloaded, focusing on the rising jihadi groups, misguided jihadi groups, across not the rightly guided groups, across the world, and giving a messianic image of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, meaning these videos were brainwashing young people. Once ISIS had taken hold of Raqqa, and Raqqa is in Syria, and Mosul in Iraq in 2014, and remember Mr. Jawlani was involved he was around at that time, which I will be covering later. The subsequent month saw these types of videos propagated, with many of the viewers excited at the thought of an impending apocalyptic war and the victory of ISIS over the enemies of Islam, as foretold in the signs of the end of time. Such delusions came to an end once ISIS had been defeated and routed out of its strongholds by the Kurds allied to the USA. These delusions happen to many people, like they are happening with people who have smoke in front of their eyes regarding Jawlani. So like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the proclaimed Mahdi of Abdullah Hashem, Ahmad al-Hassan, was also Iraqi. So like Abdullah Hashim's claim of Ahmad al-Hassan being the Mahdi, Ahmad al-Hassan was Iraqi like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Isn't that strange? And again, like al-Baghdadi, only came to some prominence after the invasion of Iraq and the fall of Saddam Hussein. So the invasion of Iraq was in 2003, and Saddam Hussein was murdered in 2006. So Ahmad al-Hassan was born in Basra in 1968. So this is Ahmad al-Hassan, whom Abdullah Hashem claims to follow. And Abdullah Hashem claims to be the first Mahdi of 12 Mahdis. This is what he claims. And I will be mentioning my challenge to Abdullah Hashem towards the end. Ahmad al-Hassan was born in Basra in 1968 into a Shia family. He claims to have a lineage going back to the 12th Shia Imam. He graduated from the University of Basra in 1992 in civil engineering. He then claimed to have had visions where the Mahdi instructed him to study at the seminary Hawza of Muhammad al-Sadr. So he claims to be the son of the Mahdi. In that case, he is violating his father's sanctity, in the sense he is claiming his mother was not married to his actual biological father, but his father is the Mahdi, na'udhu billah. So he studied at the Hawza of Muhammad al-Sadr. Muhammad al-Sadr died in 1999 in Najaf, Iraq. During this time, Ahmad al-Hassan started claiming visions and proclaiming to be the messenger of the Mahdi. Eventually, he isolated himself at home, claiming that the seminary needed reforms. He started calling people to his cult in private and then announced his calls after 2002. This resulted in debates with mainstream Shia clerics. Some of these debates are online. And many times his group would clash with security officials. Ahmad al-Hassan remains a mysterious hidden character and is hiding even today, only keeping in contact with closest followers through the internet. After moving to Egypt, Abdullah Hashem claimed to be in touch with Ahmad al-Hassan, claiming to be his representative there. In Egypt, he established a following which eventually had major splits with Ahmad al-Hassan's Arab followers. So the Arab followers, they split away from Abdullah Hashem. They claimed that Hashem was a fraud and embezzling funds in their leader's name. The cult then moved from Egypt to Germany. So Abdullah Hashem, he abandons Egypt and he moves to Germany. In Germany, Abdullah Hashem convinced new recruits to sell their homes to pay for restaurants, shops and bars that he had opened without licenses. These recruits, the Black Banners, so his cult now, it was known at that time as the Black Banners, as they were called, were made to work for free, eventually driving members away. They denounced Abdullah Hashem as a fraud for using the group for money making, selling alcohol, having illicit sexual relationships with wives of members, soliciting homosexuality, abusing cult members. These were accusations made by his former followers. By making them work long hours a day for free and many other charges. Eventually, the German government closed down the shops, restaurants and bars, and Abdullah Hashem fled to another European country while he was sought by the German police for questioning. Now, this was written before he resurfaced in England, in UK. So what I wrote, the last paragraph on him, was this is where the cult of Abdullah Hashem and Ahmad al-Hassan currently stands. But it is a sad tale of how many people can be duped into false teachings and their minds warped into a make-believe world, only to be abused for money, time and work. Needless to say, all of the above lies in distinct contradiction to the correct method of understanding the Hadith of the end of times, as we shall be examining later. Now, in this book, Navigating the End of Time, all you guys in crew, Abdullah Hashem guys, get a copy of this book, open your minds, leave the cult, run away from that cult. In this book, I cover, prior to Abdullah Hashem, I covered a leader known as Adnan Akhtar, who was known as Harun Yahya, who was jailed. So this book covered Harun Yahya, who was jailed, and now it also covers Abdullah Hashem, but it covers other cult members, cult leaders like Juhayman al-Utaybi. It covers cult mind control. There is a section on cult mind control, and one of you mentions that Ahmad al-Hassan's group have denounced Abdullah Hashem. Yes, I have mentioned that they have denounced him. But you say Sheikh Ahmad al-Hassan, even the Shia Twelvers do not recognize Ahmad al-Hassan as a genuine person. Even the Twelver Shia who are on our live stream, ask them, they do not recognize Ahmad al-Hassan as a genuine Shia representative. Now, the claim of Abdullah Hashem is sad because it misguides so many people away from true teachings of Islam. And as I mentioned, this happened with ISIS and the followers of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi also. Now, Abdullah Hashem claims to have the wasiyah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He claims to have the will and testament of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he claims that the will and testament of the best of creation, Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, claims that Abdullah Hashem will be the first Mahdi of many Mahdis, of 12 Mahdis. Abdullah Hashem, you cannot even produce this will and testament from any authentic source. You are making it up as you go along. So your long discussion regarding me was off topic. You went on to the Sahaba alayhim ridwan and saying we cannot even agree on the Sahaba, and according to you, the Sahaba alayhim ridwan, that they deceived the Ahlul Bayt and deceived the best of creation sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as you falsely claim. All of this is a diversion. So, as I was saying, Abdullah Hashem, you cannot produce the wasiyah of the best of creation sallallahu alaihi wasallam.